Hello, my friends. Welcome to Connect with Confidence. I am so excited about today's conversation because we are talking with Amanda Heel. So I'm speaking with Amanda across Zoom. She is 4.5 hours drive from here, and I'm thrilled to say that we've actually met up face-to-face a couple of times in the past year when not many people have been traveling, but I'm so delighted to welcome Amanda to Connect with Confidence.
Thank you for having me, Kerrie.
So excited. So, we always have a great conversation, and it's almost an anniversary of connecting with you.
It is actually, yes. I think we met in about April, was it?
Yeah, March,
Or
April.
March,
So
yeah.
I hadn't been home from India very long.
Mhm.
You may have even reached out while I was in our first 2 weeks of isolation at home. That was back in the day before the hotel isolation started. But it's been an amazing journey over the past almost a year of getting to know you, cheering you on in your pursuits, which have been absolutely inspirational. And I'm just going to read a couple of lines that I've got here, actually from your new book that I want to introduce everyone to. So, Amanda Heel is a published author, professional keynote speaker, sought-after empowerment coach, podcaster, and entrepreneur. For years, she has inspired and encouraged clients and audiences alike to reach their full potential by finding hope, courage, and purpose. Amanda is the sort of person who, if you tell her she can't do something, will usually find a way. You may not think that is a big deal, but she has been totally blind since birth. So what you might find easy often creates challenges for her that she overcomes. So, Amanda, I'll ask you a little bit more about your journey in a moment. But the other thing that I loved reading was some of the testimonials in this new book. So it's launching, and we'll talk more about that later. But something that I was skimming through in this page of testimonials from amazing, gorgeous people from around the world. And I saw this, take a walk with Amanda as she steps you through life's big questions with honest reflections and heartbreaking and inspiring stories, and find yourself on a purposeful, clearer path to the life you want. Now, when I first saw those words, it just reminded me of, it's less than a month ago, probably about a month ago, that I was in Canberra with you. We took you out for coffee to a specialty coffee place, and we had the opportunity to step through the roasting shed and just discover more about the whole process and smell the coffee beans. And so I thought, oh, wow, I took a walk with Amanda and I was stepping you through the coffee roastery.
Yeah.
But as I continued on, I was like, oh, yeah, that's the testimonial that I wrote. It's like, who said that? Oh, yeah, that was me. But I've seen how you, through your podcast and through conversations that I know you've shared with other members of Asia professional speakers, you really have been helping people to step through some of life's tricky questions. So let's start with, what are some of the tricky questions that people might talk to you about? Let's just go straight in the deep end, Amanda.
Well, I've heard people say that they feel isolated,
yeah,
and lonely, and
Yep.
so I've talked to some people about that. I was talking to a group the other day about coping with change in an ever-changing world, and it seems that change just gets faster and faster now. I thought it was very exciting that one of the futurists from the APSS conference or convention last year said that we had progressed 4 years technologically in 6 months, which is just extraordinary. So if you're someone who doesn't like change, that's pretty major. So whereas I love that sort of change, and I'm very excited that we now live in like a hybrid world where we can go to a conference on Zoom or we can go to a conference face to face, and both is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't think what it was. Just recently, I was mentioning you to somebody about something that you did, and they just kind of looked at me strangely. And I said, yeah, she's blind, but she's like super tech savvy, like more tech savvy than me with some things, and definitely more than a lot of people. But you're really across the, technology making life easier for you. And you also have a beautiful guide dog, Sadie.
Yes. Beautiful
Hello to
Sadie.
Sadie. Yes.
She's lying asleep next to me, being very quiet. She's not chewing her bone at the moment, which is good.
So she knows when to just when to sit and when to look out for you.
Yeah.
And I think that guide dogs are just amazing. So let's just go back. Do you want to tell us your, early days? And we're going to talk, it is the Connect with Confidence podcast. You've been connecting with people in a whole lot of different ways. And I think your perspectives can be really fresh and enlightening for us. So, but first, tell us about your family and where you came from. And have you always been around Canberra?
Sure. I am an only child. I was born at just 26 weeks. And I weighed 1 pound 9 ounces or 750 grams, and I was 10 inches long, or about 25 centimeters long.
Wow.
And I was given too much oxygen at birth because back in 1970 they were starting to suspect there might be a link between too much oxygen and blindness, but they really hadn't quite joined up all the dots, and they couldn't measure the oxygen as accurately. So I was born of one of twins, and my twin sister Lisa didn't survive. She lived for 10 hours, I think, and then she died.
Wow.
But I was the fighter. I was the one who tried to pull out my tubes and climb up the side of the crib and do all those sorts of naughty things. So, I was born in Sydney, Royal North Shore Hospital. And then when I was 8 months old, my father was posted to Canberra because he was in the army. He had the choice. He said we had the choice between Singapore and Canberra. And all my life, I said, why didn't you choose Singapore? I could have been bilingual. And he went, no, I think Canberra probably has better opportunities for a totally blind tiny baby. So we came to Canberra, and I've been there ever since.
Wow. So he must have had a very steady career then at that point to be able to stay in the one place.
Yes. Well, he was, when I was about 2, he was posted back to Sydney for a couple of years. And so he would come home during the weekends and have the weekends with us. So we'd go up to Sydney. So I started flying very young. So I love flying because I've been doing it since I was very little.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. So for our international friends, it's about a 3-hour drive, isn't it? Or a short flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3-hour drive, 40-minute flight. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, 4.5 hours from here. So I'll be back for coffee again soon. Your career, I think, is like so interesting. You've connected, I would say you've connected with courage, not just confidence. Sometimes you've probably stepped forward with great trepidation, but you have been so courageous. So can you tell me about, and I didn't warn you that I was going to tell you that or ask you this. I love that you're just open to go with the flow, but I just think you've made some really courageous decisions. So as you think back over career decisions and things that you've done, what's been like a courageous step? What's been like probably a bit terrifying that you've stepped forward into?
Well, I wanted to be a physiotherapist. And back in 1988, before the disability discrimination legislation came out in Australia, I wanted to be a physiotherapist. And so we went to the 2 main physio schools in Sydney and Melbourne and approached them, and they went, oh, good grief, no, we can't train you. You're a totally blind person. How will we teach you? So the only place I could go to be a physiotherapist was the North London School of Physiotherapy. So that was terrifying. I went across with my mum. She came across with me and my mountains of equipment. And I was over there for 4.5 months.
Wow. In London.
Doing physio in London. I'd never lived out of home before. Before I left, I had to go down to Melbourne and do a special daily living skills program where I learnt to cook and clean and use the washing machine and all that sort of thing. Because as an only child, my mum just did everything for me because it was easier, it was quicker. I'd say, oh, Mum, can I help make dinner? And she'd say, oh, look, I just want to get it done, and I just want to get it done quickly and whatnot, because she worked. When I got to a certain age, she started working, school age, she started working as well. Going to London, I think, was one of the scariest things I did. And living over there, flying over I wanted to attend a skincare conference, and no one was going at the same time that I was going. So I had to, if I wanted to go, I had to go over there on my own. So I flew from Canberra to Las Vegas, And that was scary because I had to change planes twice.
Yeah.
And then I had to get in a cab and go to a hotel I'd never been to.
Mm.
And then I had to get the reception staff to take me up to my room and orientate me to my room and show me where everything was and such. So that was scary. And then I had to Facebook my friends who were over there and go, "Hey, I'm here, I've arrived." And they went, "Okay, meet us at the pool." And this was at the MGM Grand. So meet us at the pool was like a 30-minute walk.
Wow.
I had to call security and get someone to come and take me to the pool.
Wow.
Someone couldn't just come up and get me.
Yeah, so it sounds like your friends probably didn't even think about the logistical challenge of you just finding them at the pool.
No, not really. Not really. And those that did just went, "Well, we're down here. We don't really want to walk 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back again.
Wow.
Just get security to come and get you." So I went, "Oh, all right then."
Oh.
So that was interesting. But and also when I injured my knee, I fell at a different skincare conference and very seriously injured my knee, ruptured my quadriceps tendon for anyone who has any medical knowledge.
Yeah.
And my mum, when I rang Mum, this was when I was down in Melbourne, and she said, "I'll fly down and be with you." And it's like, no, you don't have to do that. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm asking. If I'm clear in my communications, I seem to be getting everything I ask for.
Yeah.
And people are being kind and helpful. And I would rather you stay at home and look after my sick guide dog than come and be with me, because you couldn't really add anything to what I'm getting.
Wow. So I'm really interested to hear some of your stories about the kindness of strangers, because you've been very open to that, and I guess have relied on the kindness of strangers. And I know that our listeners know also that there are kind strangers everywhere, and we endeavour to be those too. But tell me some of your favourite kindness of strangers moments.
Oh, favorite kindness of strangers. Well, actually, one of them, my attitude of gratitude story. I don't know if that was one that you were thinking of, but I was sitting at the MGM Grand, and I had 6 hours to wait. I was meant to meet someone, and then she pulled out at the last minute. She had a better offer. And she's like 24, so she says, "Oh, come to this big party at this other hotel." She's not going to go, "No, I'd rather sit with Amanda by the pool." So, but it ended up being a wonderful thing that she didn't turn up, because the CEO of the skincare company that I had been working for saw me sitting in the lounge and came up. She saw my bag and came up and said hi. And I commented on the new website how accessible it was. And she said, "Oh, look, I'll organize something for you. I'll organize some food for you." And I went, "Oh, great. Okay, thanks." And anyway, who should come to me about an hour later but the head butler of the MGM Grand.
Wow.
And say, "Oh, I understand you're hungry." And I went, "I could be." "Oh, she's this woman, I won't mention her name. She tells me that you need some food and whatnot, and I've been tasked to do that." So I thought he was just going to bring me a sandwich, but no, he took me up to the penthouse of the MGM Grand.
Wow.
And I sat where a whole heap of famous people like Rolling Stones and different names that he dropped and whatever, and was treated like a princess for a couple of hours, and then taken to the airport in a Rolls Royce. And that was all because I said hello to someone and chatted to them and said I liked their website, and said that meeting her made the 6 hours I would sit in that lounge worth it. And I spent 3 of them sitting up in the penthouse. So it was great.
Yeah, that's very nice. You often have no idea what's behind a hello, and it is useful to carry a branded bag or a we were talking about this the other day with a friend of ours who's she's got a few different t-shirts that from various occasions in Australia and overseas, that you wear one of those t-shirts and you never know who's going to say, "Oh my gosh, were you there?" Or "Oh, I know that town," or "I know that event." And it can be quite fun to have those moments of connection. And
I had a kind stranger just the other day. I was traveling by bus to, which used to be one of my greatest fears. I was traveling by bus to the other end of Canberra, and I got off the bus and I got myself disorientated, and I heard someone walking past, and I said, "Hello, excuse me," and he stopped, teenage boy, and I said, oh, which direction is the car park? And he said, oh, it's to your left and whatever. So he gave me directions and I was able to get out of my sticky situation. So, yeah, I'm very grateful for kind strangers who come up and go, are you okay? Do you need
that's
help?
lovely.
You look lost.
Yeah, yeah. It's always worth asking someone who looks a bit lost if they need anything. And just recently, actually, I didn't know, but I was talking to the executive producer of a very well-known TV show, and I just saw a tired traveller and I said, hi, is there anything that maybe I can help you with? Because I thought, I don't know my way around here very well in terms of that particular scenario. But when he said, oh, I just need good coffee, or maybe he just said, I just need coffee. And I went, oh my gosh, you've asked the right person. You're in the right place. Just come across the road with me. So I walked him over the road and ended up meeting all these other people. And it was a pretty extraordinary moment. But yeah, I think just that being open, having that moment of empathy or courage, vulnerability to be open to a connection can really be quite beautiful. And, when you connected with me, I remember that the mutual friend who gave you my name, she had mentioned you to me like months earlier. So when you say, hey, Kelly told me that I need to talk to you, I was like, oh, okay, excellent. But yeah, I just love that. Any kind of connection, whether it's like absolute total strangers in the street, can I help you? Or can I take a photo of you, or any of those things? Or the inkling, maybe you two would like to connect. And I love connecting people. And, it's been fun over the past year to introduce you to more speakers and organisers of events in Asia. And I'm just super proud to know you, Amanda. And
oh, likewise, you've gone from being my coach to my dear friend. In fact, SJ was talking about at the last conference I was at on the weekend, someone was talking about business besties, and I thought, yep, Kerrie's definitely my business bestie. You're the person I run things by now. And
thank you. Yep. With a little help from Lyndon.
Yes. Oh, Lyndon the Wonderful, definitely.
There we go. Lyndon the Wonderful. He will be editing this. We don't want to say too much because he'll be totally booked out by my clients and friends that go, can you get him to do that for me too? Anyway, so moving right on. Thank you, Lyndon. And thank you, Amanda, for those kind words. Yeah, I would love to hear a bit more about your podcast, because I think you started podcasting before me. Was that, pre-COVID or?
I started on the 1st of January. Well, I did a little podcast in 2016, and it was kind of a little bit basic. I used to record it on my iPhone, standing in my walk-in wardrobe, which, makes a very good sound booth if you don't have anything better.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
so that was pretty high tech even back then, Amanda.
Yeah, yep. Standing in my wardrobe, talking into my jackets works quite well. And I'm just, as I speak now, I'm just thinking, I need to put some pillows up in some corners. But anyway, then I sort of ditched that and ran out of things to say. And then I started the Do What You Love podcast.
Yeah.
On the 1st of January, I launched it. And that is, it's very similar to what's in the book, actually. It covers some of the chapters grew out of the podcast, and some of the podcast episodes grew out of chapters that I'd written. So they sort of go hand in hand. There's stuff about purpose, how to discover your purpose. Why would you want to discover your purpose? What living out your purpose is like. Yeah. There's stuff on mindset. There's stuff on values. There's stuff on courage.
Yeah.
Overcoming fear. Dealing with loneliness and isolation.
Yep.
Coping with COVID. When I had a little meltdown, we were meant to have a big holiday, and a 25-day holiday ended up being a 5-day holiday, and then followed by 2 weeks of self-isolation, and then Canberra had gone into lockdown. So I'd spent 2 weeks looking forward to all the things I could do, and then Canberra went into lockdown just as we came out. So I had a bit of a meltdown, and then sort of suffered from some anxiety for about a week, did nothing but watch TV and knit for a week. And then I thought, right, what am I going to talk about on my podcast? And my mum actually said, well, why don't you tell your listeners what you've just been through and how you've turned it around? So it ended up being a podcast episode on what to do when your life's been turned upside down, and a blog post about the 5 things I like about COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you've really looked for the gift and opportunity in so many challenges. And this is a beautiful moment too. I just flicked through to the dedication in your book, and so I'll just read that if you don't mind.
Sure.
So just remind me of your mum's name, her pronunciation.
Val May.
It is May, yeah. So I dedicate this book to my mother, Val May Heal, who has stood by me like a pillar of strength throughout my life, and who has kept me grounded and stable during the ups and downs of the journey to discover my life's purpose and put it into action. It's so beautiful. And of course, you also dedicate this book to the reader, hoping it brings hope, wisdom, and peace, which is gorgeous. So yeah, it's beautiful to read that. And so tell us a bit about, your connection with your mum, because it always, changes as we grow, as, you go off to London. How long did she stay with you for? Was it just to help you settle in?
She stayed for 6 weeks, but she spent most of her time down in Devon. She'd come up on the weekends and visit me.
Okay.
So, my mum is kind of my best friend.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My parents kind of complemented each other very well. My dad was the sort of person who I would get 10 out of, or I'd get sort of 8 out of 10 for a test when I was at school, and he'd go, "Why didn't you get 10 out of 10? What did you do wrong?" Rather than, "Oh, so what could you have done better?"
Yeah.
Whereas Mum was the sort of person who would say, "Okay, as long as you've done your best,
yeah,
I'm proud of you. I'm happy. That's all I want is your best.
Yeah.
I don't care whether you get 2 out of 10. If you've done your best, that's enough." So they really complemented each other, and Mum sort of really became my best friend, really. My confidant. I'd never kept anything from her. Even as a teenager, I at least I think I don't remember. Maybe I did.
Wow.
But I told her most things. And now since Dad's died, I've kind of become not quite a carer, but more of a friend and advisor, really, because I'm the one, I taught her how to use internet banking and get on Zoom, and helped with the sorting of the things along with another family friend when Dad died, and so now I go over there every weekend and change light bulbs, and someone said to me the other day, "How do you do that?" And I went, "Well, you just kind of unscrew one and screw in the other. It's not hard." It's really not difficult. Or if it's a bayonet, push and twist, and push and twist. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
So I change light bulbs for her and help her lift heavy things and fix her internet and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think there's so many things that as a sighted person we can't imagine doing something without our sight, because we've always had it. But we are not as aware of things like what we feel and what we hear and what we sense. And so what do you think has been your most, maybe it's hard to notice what is so like intuitive for you, but what would you say your greatest strengths are in terms of senses that make up for your vision in some ways?
Definitely listening.
Yeah.
I can listen to 2 conversations at once.
Wow.
Not deeply, but I can follow 2 conversations at once. Particularly if I'm not part of one. So I can actually sit and listen to two different conversations and follow both of them reasonably well. And I'm always listening. I'm always noticing things that are going on in the background. And so I remember traveling through airports with people. I'm chat, talk. And the person with me is going, shush, shush, shush. And I'm going, what? No, that's not our flight. I was listening to that. That's not our flight. So I can talk and listen at the same time too. So and I'll hear the dog barking in the distance, and so I won't be startled by Sadie going woof, whereas someone else will jump out of their skin because they didn't know that she
responded.
She heard something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So you get So I'm not sure if you'll hear it, but we have a bit of a storm going on at the moment. So we did just have a little downpour. So if you hear it, then I'm sure our listeners will too. But
I didn't actually.
Zoom's
been kind to us and is cutting out the background noise.
Yeah, and it's not as heavy as it was this morning. So I thought, let's just have a conversation. We don't know what the weather's going to do.
True.
Yeah. So what are some of because you've had a number of guests on your podcast. Have you had some guests that you just didn't know before that you stumbled across somehow?
Yes. In fact,
what have you been learning?
One of the most interesting guests I had was, I can't remember her last name. Isn't that awful? Jackie.
Yeah.
She talked about values, and she was amazing. I was expecting she was coming on at like 7 p.m. my time, which was like 9 a.m. UK time. And I thought, oh yeah, we'll have this done in 45 minutes. An hour and 15 minutes later, she's still talking. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm so hungry, but this is so interesting. And I made it into 3 podcast episodes all about values and how they affect your subconscious, and how your subconscious then affects your behaviors and your attitudes to things. And it's all in the subconscious. It's so interesting. She was Jackie Lefebvre, I think her name is. And she's amazing. I stumbled across her because I did a values inventory that she has, which is it's very good. You don't just tick things off a list. You answer some huge 50 questions or something, and it gives you your top 10 values.
Cool. Yeah, I remember that those episodes. It was fantastic. That's kind of when I was getting to know you. So something else that I was thinking about is the television appearances that you've done. So a lot of people are kind of terrified of, being on TV and, what that's all like. So tell us, in terms of connecting confidently, do you have tips or insights that you gained from those experiences that you want to share with us?
Absolutely. Don't wear stripes. Sit on the corners of your jacket. If you're wearing a jacket, sit on the corners of your jacket if you can't do it up, and it will keep everything tidy. If you're like me and you have a guide dog or, something at your feet, which they're going to film, make sure your shoes are clean because they'll be filming your feet. And I was on a particular TV show, and I was wearing heels, and I had one leg crossed over the other, and I was so relaxed. I had my ankles crossed, I think, and I was so relaxed chatting to Darren Hinch that I just sort of flicked my heel out of my shoe, and my shoe's just hanging off my toes.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize I was doing it until we're watching the video back, and Mum's going, "Oh, Amanda, what'd you take your shoe off for?" Because of course they were filming the guard dog at my feet. So that's how relaxed I am. It's easy. I felt like I was almost sitting in someone's lounge room having a chat.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, it's probably like you can tune out the what's going on around you and just focus on the voice of the person you're talking to. So so I know that you're on ABC News, you've been on 60 Minutes and the Midday Show. So what was your favourite moment in there?
Oh, I think 60 Minutes was fun because they were talking, they did like 2 stories, a story and a follow-up story about a group of blind people, including me, who went on a trek to Nepal.
Yeah.
And so we got to see them a few times. They went on a trek with us and through one of the national parks. They came to our houses and filmed us, and they met us at the they saw us off at the airport, and they also met us when we came back. So that was fun. We had a real relationship with the crew by the end of it, and it was good. The only bad thing is you never know what these people are going to pick.
Yeah.
And they had like a little line. There was Ed the triathlete, and there was no, Ed was the Olympic athlete. That's right. Ed the Olympic athlete, Ched the triathlete, someone else, there's something else. And, each one had their little description.
Yeah.
And I'd been talking to one of the journos about dreams. He said, well, if you're totally blind, how do you dream? And I said, well, I don't dream in He said, do you dream in pictures? And I went, no, I dream in sounds and textures. And so instead of introducing me as Amanda Heal, the commerce law student, he said, Amanda Heal, the blind woman who dreams in sounds and textures. And I was like, oh, gosh, that's the last time I'm going to tell a journalist that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a commerce law student at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And we haven't even got into the fact that you were a lawyer. You wanted to do physio, ended up being a lawyer, and now in your own business. But yeah, how does it, how do you deal with it when people, refer to you as, the blind one in the group, or, which is, I guess, essentially what they did there, although they added that little detail about your personal dreams. What's the impact? Because there's so much more to you than that, but I think people are just a bit in awe of what you do, with blindness being like a perceived limitation for people that are sighted. And
it's interesting you say that, because I was on a networking call, and actually I should introduce you to Misty.
Cool.
I was on a networking call the other day, and Misty was saying to me, oh, look, you should tell people you're blind, because, I just go off and tell my story, and, oh, here I am, and I wrote my book and whatever. And she said, and they can't tell that you're blind on camera. So she said, you need to tell them that, because that's a selling point for your book and your stuff, and, makes what you're saying even more inspiring. So I'm quite happy for people to say, oh, I'm the blind woman, because I am. I mean, that's just what it is. I'm not one for mincing my words.
Yeah.
But I see myself as a person first who just happens to be blind.
Yeah. Yeah. And, listeners of Connect with Confidence will a lot remember and mention my first few podcast episodes were with Julie Woods, who's also known as That Blind Woman from New Zealand. And, her website is thatblindwoman.nz, I think. But yeah, she just took that on, and she wasn't blind from birth like you, Amanda, but went blind in her early 30s. But just like, okay, that's how people describe me. That's fine.
It's very clever. They use that as a marketing ploy. Very clever.
Remember. So I think, people can do that just to, we mentioned like somebody's most distinguishing features. The other day I met a stranger in Sydney on the street, and we started chatting because I saw this moment of kindness. She gave a homeless person like a little backpack and then rushed off. And I said, excuse me, did you just, give her a bag of goodies or something? Do you know her? And anyway, so we had this conversation, and anyway, I mentioned a friend's book launch. It was Sam Cawthorne. He won't mind me telling this story, but she said, oh, is he and she starts like indicating, pointing towards her shoulders, and she's like, arms? I said, yeah, he's missing an arm. And she was like, oh, yeah, I've seen him speak. So, people will just go, what is the most memorable thing about this person? And, sometimes you just go, oh, there's so much more to me than that. But, I guess it's just human nature to do that. And sometimes it connects and other times it doesn't. But, I like to introduce you, in a number of ways. But, it is kind of extra inspiring. And I think that just takes me back to another testimonial I saw that really jumped out at me. It was lovely. I think it might have been from Patrick, your publishing coach. No one ever said creating your destiny would be easy, but Amanda Heal makes even being blind look easy. Now she shares her hard-won secrets. So he's not saying it's easy. These are hard-won secrets that about how to find your passion, pursue your dreams, and tackle whatever challenges try and stop you. It's beautiful, because you've had some challenges that have tried to stop you, and even COVID getting you down for a week or two didn't stop you moving forward and seeing how can you help other people with that. So let's just have a quick chat about your book process, because this is another way of connecting with people. You are sharing your story, and you sent me sometime last year after we first connected, you sent me your first book, and this book I think goes into more detail of your story, more succinct learning, and
the second one.
So tell us about this new book, which is called Seeing by Vision, Not by Sight. Tell us more about that.
I wrote a book in 2018 or 2017, which was just about purpose.
Yeah.
This book contains most of the material from the first book, but it also contains, it's updated material because I've coached a few clients through the process now of discovering their purpose, and I actually know it works rather than just being a theory that I've tripped up.
Okay.
I actually know it works.
Yeah.
Plus, I've included other chapters about courage, self-leadership, dealing with change and mindset, and managing your finances. So I like to think of my first book as the toddler and the second book as the adult that the toddler grew up into.
Yeah, nice.
And people say, oh, I want to buy your first book. It's like, no, don't bother. Just buy the second one. So, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about the writing process. Do you do this easily, or do you pull the words out of yourself, with a struggle?
Oh, some of the chapters just flowed. Some of the chapters just flowed, and other ones, oh gosh, some of them were like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Others were like the dealing with change one. That was just amazing. I'm a committed Christian, and I pray about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And knew I had to write a chapter about change, and it's like, Lord, what do you want me to say about this?
Yeah.
And he gave me 3 points, and it's like 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's very cool. Thank you. That's great. So I just wrote it down, and he said, "Oh, use the example of getting a guide dog, changing guide dogs as how to illustrate these three points, which were make space for the change, learn all you can about the change, and commit to the change."
Yeah, wow. And I think you might have shared at least some of that on your podcast, if I remember correctly.
I don't know whether I did. No, I know
maybe it was.
One bit I haven't shared. It's kind of come to a bit of a standstill. I had 25 episodes, and I started reading excerpts from the book, and then I continued writing the book and stopped. So it's kind of stopped at episode 25 and had a bit of a break. So
yeah.
I'm not quite sure where to go from that, whether just to put the whole audio book in as part of the podcast, like Brendan Burchard does with some of his books.
Okay.
Or to interview people from the book, which I probably could do.
Yeah, we can unpack some ideas later. But yeah, maybe I've remembered you talking about it. And changing guide dog would be quite a challenging time, because you build such a relationship and trust with them.
Yeah.
And you've reminded me, because it is something that I thought earlier today, I'd love to ask Amanda more about guide dogs, because I think just general awareness for the civilian population would be useful. So start with telling us about changing guide dogs. What's that like for you?
It can be. It's painful. It is one of the most difficult changes that I have to go through every 8 to 10 years, is changing guide dogs, because you're right. When I get each dog, I'm onto my fourth one now. I form a bond with them. I over a period of months, I form a bond with that dog. I trust that dog with my safety. I trust that dog to take me around objects, to not let me fall down steps, and I even trust the dog with my life.
Yeah.
So it is a very strong bond. And so when the dog dies or gets sick or just doesn't want to work anymore, then you have to let go of all the stuff you knew about that previous dog and form a new bond with the next one. It might be different. It might do things differently. It might walk at a different pace.
Yeah.
It might have a different tension on the harness handle. That's the hardest thing I found the hardest thing I found to get used to was Sadie doesn't pull into her harness, whereas all my other dogs have. She just walks along very gently. And if I put any tension back on her harness handle, she stops.
Right, okay.
So I've had to get used to not having that pull through the harness handle. And she walks a lot more slowly than my other dogs did.
Yeah, she's like, there's no rush, Amanda.
Pretty much. Yeah.
What if you are in a hurry? Can you kind of
Oh yeah,
her on a bit?
she'll stir. I have to sort of go, come on, Sadie, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And she stopped chewing her bone, going, what? She stood up and put her head on my lap now, going, what? Let's go, let's go, let's go. Yeah.
Now you're going to have to take her out for an outing. And of course, when we took you out for coffee in Canberra recently, it was pouring rain. So you chose to leave Sadie at home, which I don't think she was terribly impressed about.
Oh, she was all right. She doesn't mind being crated for a little while. Go back to chewing your bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got all excited there. How old were you when you got your first guide dog, Amanda?
I was just about to turn 19. It was December 1980. No, I was just about to turn 20. That's right.
Yeah.
Because I came back from England in 89 and I got Gypsy, my first dog, at the end of 1989.
Yeah, wow.
They usually don't let people have guide dogs until they're over 18 because there is obviously responsibility to not only care for and look after the dog and maintain its training, but also educate the public. I believe as a guide dog handler, you become a bit of an ambassador for guide dogs, and I've taken that a step further and become a guide dog's public relations speaker. And so I'm very used to sort of saying, please don't pat the dog when she's in harness, that she's on duty. And so that's, you become a bit of an ambassador for the dog.
Yeah, which is great because it's amazing how if people absolutely adore dogs and they don't know about working dogs, then they do want to just dive in for a pat.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Really important not to distract the dogs. So did you grow up with any other pets? Like, did you have dogs before a guide dog, or was this new?
Always had dogs from the time I can first remember. My parents have always had dogs. So I've always been a really doggy person. I've always loved dogs, and so I've been dying to have a guide dog since I was a child because they're just they're so lovely. I mean, they're not just a guide, they're a companion.
Yeah.
Sadie knows all my secrets.
Yeah. I've got a beautiful photo, I think, of you and Sadie. I'm not sure if I'm in the photo or not, but if it's the photo I'm thinking of you and Sadie, I might use that to share this podcast episode. And the storm seems to be getting a bit louder here. So we'll wrap up shortly. I'd love to do a Facebook Live with you and introduce you to some more people.
Sure.
And I'd like to get this edited and shared out before your book launch because we're going online, of course, and can invite people from all over. Like, I remember when we set this date and time, Amanda, we looked at the world clock and looked at, we could make it. It's an early morning if you're in India or Middle East, but still jump up and join us on this conversation.
I think it's 7:30 a.m. in India. It's 9 a.m. in Singapore.
Yep.
It's
12 here.
1 a.m. in the UK.
Ooh.
5 a.m. in the UAE, I think.
Yep.
And it's midday in Sydney.
Yeah, and sort of evening in or afternoon in
8
America.
p.m.
So,
Eastern in the US.
Yeah, so we've made it work for as many people as possible, and I look forward to that conversation and launching this book with you. So I think we might save the rest of our conversation for then, Amanda.
Awesome. Thank you.
But it's always such a joy to chat with you, and thank
Likewise.
you so much for sharing. And we'll put your links and social media and everything in the podcast notes. And I just want to encourage you, my friends, to follow Amanda, see what she's up to, and be encouraged by what she is sharing, because she's really put so much heart and soul into this, seeing by vision, not by sight. And it's really important to be challenged that we might not have everything going for us that we want, but there is always possibilities, and we can always dig deep and find our purpose, and we'll unpack more of that next week on the podcast. And maybe you're listening to it when the book launch is over, but that's okay. We'll still have a recording of it, and I'm sure Amanda will be able to share that as well.
Can I give the website?
Yes, please do.
You can read more about the book and buy the book, if you would like, at seeingbyvisionnotbysight.com, and the card is actually on that page. Don't click away from it like some people have done. seeingbyvision.notbysight.com.
Very, very cool. Excellent. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts, Amanda. Is there anything else you'd like to say in completion?
Just thank you for having me. It's been an honor. I've listened to some of your podcast episodes and I feel very honored to be on one of them.
Oh, you're so welcome. And we've got, like, I think we've started this year so powerfully with Tracy Hewitt from Queensland. We've had some more great conversations and there are more booked in the calendar. And a lot of them are authors. So, you know, it's great to just jump on, have a conversation with people that are thinking things through. But when you've gone to the trouble of putting it into a book, you really have worked through this for quite some time. And so, yeah, I'm excited about all the authors that I'm introducing and those who are sharing their message in other ways. So thank you for listening, my friends. And thank you again, Amanda, for joining us.